Shoalhaven, where the council's in the news again. From rates to roads and trees.
You know what it is like to get kicked in the head by a book that makes you think about things you hold close. That is a social democratic view that we need legislation to get government to move capital to do less harm, then to find that maybe that less harm could in fact be more harm. I have just had that experience, so this is not an easy video for me. And up front, let me say no, I have not gone over the Lou Kazmiri school of cutting down trees and building new suburbs all over our bushland. So what is it that I read? Ezra Klein's Abundance: The Inner History of the Future, co-authored with Derek Thompson and based on his broader work, including Substack essays and podcasts, argues that America's central problem is a scarcity mindset. An institutional and political failure to build, produce and adapt at the speed society needs. Although it's a US-focused narrative, its core insights apply directly to Australia's housing crisis and specifically to regions like the Shoalhaven, which is caught between growth pressures and restrictive planning systems. Core ideas from Abundance and their implications for Shoalhaven housing. 1. Scarcity is often political, not natural. Klein argues that the barriers to housing, infrastructure and innovation are rarely technological, they're political and regulatory. For Shoalhaven, this means the housing shortage isn't just about materials or land. It's about planning systems, council processes and community opposition that prevent supply from meeting demand, things we are all too familiar with. Shoalhaven implication. The housing shortfall is being artificially extended by local planning rules, including the politicised use of character protections that delay or block medium-density developments, even near town centres or transit corridors. This has been handled terribly by SIG, not trying to bring the community along, but rather going behind closed doors and, in essence, killing the character issues, well, at least to the next term of council. To the character as a proxy for exclusion. Klein explores how neighbourhood character or heritage is often used by well-organised residents to preserve their version of the status quo, which often locks out younger, poorer, or more diverse populations. These concepts, while sounding benign or even noble, can become tools for exclusion and economic segregation. I am not saying that we should abandon or kill the character issues, it is vital, but we need to have the discussion with a council that is a problem solver, not a deceiver or manipulator for developers' open slather. Shoalhaven implication. Opposition to removing character requirements can be less about aesthetics and more about resisting change, including the influx of renters, younger people, and affordable housing types. Overuse of this concept stalls much-needed housing development. 3. We need more capacity, fast. A major theme is the need for governments to move from risk aversion and delay to state capacity building. Hiring the skills, building the institutions, and using political will to say yes to more projects, especially housing. Shoalhaven implication. Council needs in-house planners, architects and project managers to accelerate approvals and directly shape good design outcomes, rather than relying on slow consultant processes and outdated rules. This internal capacity also builds trust. If you want to see some good greenfields development, have a look at the Serembe case study out of the USA. It uses new urbanism, but set in a village concentration with lots of forest and walking tracks to other villages. Character can't come at the cost of our kids' future. Reframe the debate. Highlight how current planning rules are locking young people out of their hometowns. Show real people forced out by unaffordable rents or unable to buy near family. And show real evidence. I was appalled at the falsehoods rolled out by Lou Kazmiri. In short, the facts he told were all lies. More housing means more choice for everyone. This isn't about towers in backyards. It's about allowing modest, well-designed townhouses, dual occupancies and flats close to shops, schools and transport. We'll keep design standards but remove the red tape. Retain core design protections but get rid of vague, inconsistent character tests that just block progress. Bring in clear, fair guidelines instead. And these need to be developed with the community, not using political manoeuvres as the SIG has done. What council can do now? Commission a local housing needs assessment that connects supply constraints to affordability impacts. We have this, or are at least very close. Draft and release a better housing strategy that includes winding back vague character rules in specific zones while enhancing design standards. Hire or train a skilled internal planning team to lead a proactive housing agenda. Build political cover by aligning with business chambers, community groups, and housing advocates. At the moment, SIG only aligns with big developers and business interest. They work to remove real dialogue with the community, engage with state government to align reforms with state housing targets and potential funding. This is a curated reading list and resource guide split into 3 categories to engage this audience constructively. Housing reform with a conservative or green lens. For readers wary of density or skeptical of change, these works challenge the status quo without alienating conservative values like stewardship, local control, or intergenerational responsibility. The Housing Theory of Everything, a Sam Bowman, UK, explains how restrictive planning damages the economy, environment, and social fabric. Speaks to both market liberals and environmentalists. Short, accessible essay that's ideal for local councillors or interested citizens. Online version available via Works in Progress. See A Right to Build, Alistair Parvin, WikiHouse. Argues for community-led development and local empowerment, not top-down planning. Emphasises sustainability and affordability through smart design and deregulated access to housing tools. Yes, in my backyard. Alan Durning, Sightline Institute. Frames housing supply as essential to environmentalism, denser living, lower emissions. Uses US West Coast examples but directly relevant to New South Wales towns like ours. Reconciling environmental goals with development. These readings show that climate action and housing growth are not at odds and in fact must go hand in hand to achieve true sustainability. Designing Climate Solutions, Hal Harvey, emphasises that urban form, transit and housing supply are climate policies. Encourages smart density, not sprawl, as the key to emissions reduction. Grattan Institute reports Australia. The Housing Challenge 2022 and Rethinking Planning 2021 offer evidence showing that limiting housing in existing urban areas pushes development to sprawl, increasing carbon footprints, infrastructure costs, and habitat destruction. Planet of the Suburbs, Patrick Condon, argues that walkable, compact cities are not only more sustainable but also better for community life, a value many conservatives share. Australian-centric political and cultural bridges. To speak to local Liberal voters and moderate conservatives in the Shoalhaven, you need Australian voices who blend pragmatism, economics and heritage values. Peter Tulip, Centre for Independent Studies, Housing Regulation Papers, former RBA economist who argues that planning restrictions hurt affordability and productivity, comes from a free market conservative tradition, ideal for those sceptical of state intervention. Property Wrongs Brendan Coates, Grattan Institute, explains how well-intentioned regulation has created housing inequality. Uses plain language and Australian examples. Senator David Pocock's works on housing and climate. For Green Liberals, Pocock offers an independent, thoughtful approach to linking environmental sustainability with affordable, resilient housing. Messaging for Shoalhaven? You support solar panels and batteries? Those only work if people can actually live here. Housing and climate go together. Good planning doesn't mean no change, it means smart change, letting families live close to schools, shops and transit, not on the urban fringe. You want to preserve the bush? Then stop pushing development outwards. More housing in town means less sprawl, more habitat saved. If you want to borrow a copy of the Ezra Klein book, just email me.
Keep your eye on the Shoalhaven, where the council's in the news again. From rates to roads and trees that go, we're watching where your money flows.